Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Rantin Review Entertainment. Bête Noire is the next episode in Season 7 of Black Mirror that we're going to be looking at today on the channel. I will say, and we're going to do this the same way as we did last time. I'm going to talk generally about the episode and then give my spoiler review later on. So I'll let you know ahead of time in case you don't want to be spoiled and you want to go watch the episode and then come back and watch this review later. But this episode different from the first one. The first one I liked very much. This one is okay. It centers around Maria, a culinary researcher whose reality begins to subtly change after an old classmate begins work at her office. Now, Maria, who is played by Sienna Kelly, she is an R&D worker. She's into the culinary arts, very high level, chocolates and sweets and food. And, this is the ultimate foodie, a corporate environment here. And she's very good at her job. She's married, or I guess I don't know if she's married or not, but she has a boyfriend or a partner that she lives with. And we see that in several instances with them where they're talking and she's got some idea. And he's like, well, maybe you need to calm down a little bit. This happens a lot. And the hat that her partner is wearing is of a place called Barney's. And now there's a rumor going around, I haven't confirmed this or not, there are people who are saying that this hat says different things depending on where you're watching it and how you're watching it. There are apparently some gaslighting going on within the episode itself, which if that is true, I gotta look it up. If that's true, that's pretty clever by Black Mirror as they continue to find new ways to break the fourth wall with this show, which is amazing. But I remember the cap as being Barney's, because when I first saw the cap, I thought it said Marines, and I was like, that doesn't say Marines, there was an A in it. We'll get back to that in the spoiler section. As I mentioned before, she works at this office, and a former classmate comes in for a consumer study on something that some new food, some new confection that she's created. And this young woman, she is actually helpful in getting the other people in this consumer product test agree that, hey, yeah, her stuff is actually good. The sweets or whatever it is that Maria developed was actually good on the second try. So there's a little bit of, hey, she's on my side here, but you instantly get that there's something a little bit off about this woman. They meet in the bathroom, they have a conversation, and of course then, like I said, it turns out that this former classmate is going to work with her in the office. The themes around this show are definitely around gaslighting and a certain, I don't know if it's quite paranormal, but a weird thing that shows up on a lot of weird countdown videos on YouTube. So we'll get into that in the spoiler section, but overall, I do think this episode is not as good as the first one. It's interesting in its own way. I do like the art style. It takes place over a week, and you see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with these kind of ominous, I guess, cooking shots in the background from the titles, which made me think, okay, this is going somewhere where with the sweets or something. This is going to end. That's got to be a hint towards something at the end. I'm not quite sure. I may have missed it. I'm not quite sure if that it really did tie into the theme. I did like it as an aesthetic, though. It takes a while to kind of figure out where this one is going, unlike the first episode, Common People, where by about 10 minutes in, I kind of figured out what was going to happen. This one kept you guessing, so I will give it credit for that. Where we wound up at the very end, almost, it's close to jumping the shark for me, but not quite there. So I'm not going to recommend this one as a must watch. It's a fun watch, but it isn't, it's not going to be in my top half of Black Mirror episodes of all time. Now that we've gotten into this, if you have some feelings on it, let me know in the comment box below. But from here on out, we're going to be talking about spoilers. So again, as always, you are warned. If you don't want to know, you don't want the episode spoiled, go watch it and come back and check this video out later. But into the spoilers here. So the friend that has come, or supposed friend, is Rosie McEwen. And she was back in school days with Maria. She was the weird girl. She was a computer girl. She was all into building computers, and Maria is telling her partner about this when they're, at home, and she's like, yeah, that girl was weird. but there was this rumor about her giving a hand job to one of the teachers and stuff, and she kind of played it off as she was above it. She wasn't part of that. It was the other mean girls that were abusing her. But we kind of get an idea that Maria probably was involved with that as well. Verity Green, and Verity is an interesting. See, you gotta know that all these words mean something. Verity is an actual interesting name that they give her because the word verity itself means the quality of being true or real. Interesting. It also is the name of apparently an AI company out there as well. So the name is definitely intentional and on the nose. And you do get a sense that there's something a little bit off, a little bit weird about Verity. But Verity, everybody in the office likes her. Maria's boss likes her. She has some good ideas. But we start noticing that Maria is missing things. Like she's missing meetings. She's saying things exist that don't exist. Then she's proven wrong in the office by her most obnoxious coworker who tells her to feel the burn when they go to Google something they're arguing and it turns out that Maria was wrong. Maria was confident that she was right. This accelerates to when the big, I guess he's the owner of the company, the big guy in the company comes in, or the guy in the company comes in to taste some of her work, her new creations. Verity is now working at this point under Maria as kind of an intern. Maria gives Verity the list of ingredients to put into this thing and a specific request to not put anything meat-based in there. She emails Verity the instructions. Verity gives the instructions to the other people working on this. And what they find out is as he's eating it, he's like, there's an interesting texture to this. He walks off. And then one of the other coworkers lets them know, like, there was pork, I think it was pork something in there. And everybody flips out because, the guy's a vegan. He's a vegetarian. He's the boss of the company. That's terrible. Maria claims that Verity did it. Yeah, I sent her email and they're arguing. And it turns out that, no, she checks the email. It wasn't what she thought it was. Now, this is another reference that they're bringing up in this episode, and this reference is to the Mandela Effect, which is something I love stories about the Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect has always interested me. If you don't know what it is, very roughly speaking to describe it, it's how people, and this is a true thing, a lot of people remember something being a certain way or being spelled a certain way, and then reality is it isn't. The Berenstain Bears, that's one. I think the FedEx logo is one. There's a bunch of famous ones that Jiffy was called Jif, which that's one that kind of gets to me. It's called the Mandela Effect because there are a lot of people who misremember that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s. I didn't get that one. Many people misremember that Gandalf says run in The Lord of the Rings when he actually says fly when he's falling in the pit from the Balrog. So there's a lot of these Mandela effects. It's a very interesting thing. There's some very cleverly edited YouTube videos about people talking about the Mandela Effect.
Norway, what happens? And it's fucking weird. All right. It happens when it gets in the room. See it? And then back out here. Normal. Yeah. What the fuck? Uh-huh. Yeah. And then normal. This just creeps me out, man. It is changing right there. Anyway.
Back to the episode, as Maria feels like she's constantly losing her mind, she gets a phone call, or she tries to contact one of her former classmates after looking at an old picture where Verity is in the background looking all disheveled. And she tries to contact this former classmate, finds out the classmate committed suicide, very aggressively trying to understand if she had met with Verity, because she's got a suspicion that Verity is doing something shady. She doesn't know what it is. But all of these recent things about her misremembering things, all of her Mandela Effect episodes are because of Verity. And at this point, too, her spouse is kind of ticked off at her. And even back to that Barney's cap, he says it's always been Bernie's. So they're playing with you as the audience, and I like that aspect of this. This then spirals into this whole crazy thing where Verity is clearly messing with Maria. And then you're thinking as the audience, are we seeing, all right, is Maria delusional and having a psychotic episode, or is Verity actually effing with her? And you don't really know until you get to near the end of the episode, which is where it kind of falls down for me. Maria actually winds up stalking Verity after pretty much everything falls down at her job and she's about to get fired. And there's this whole thing about coconut milk, which is an ongoing joke, which is kind of funny. I think it just says I'm allergic to nuts. I have a nut allergy, and everybody's like, what's nut allergy? I have a nut allergy. She goes to look up nut allergy and it doesn't even come up. It keeps resetting it in Google, which we've all had that experience when we go to type something and Google's like, did you mean this? It's so, like, again, I love Black Mirror for the fact that they are one of the few shows that capture these little quality of life things like that. This ends up with Maria going to Verity's place and finding out the whole story. Yes, Verity is controlling things. That big computer she was designing when she was in school actually allows her to slip through different realities. So there's a multiverse aspect to this, which I know a lot of people are tired of the multiverse thing, especially if you're a Marvel fan. But she's been able to live for a very long time and live in different multiverses and be everything and everybody. She's even got a painting of herself up being like Venus, with her sitting on a throne and men bowing to her and feeding her grapes and all this stuff. And Maria looks at the picture like, really? Which is interesting. That'll come back up in a little bit. But she goes to hide. They have their confrontation, find out that Verity has done all these things, but she never, even though she's been an astronaut, she's been the queen of the universe, she's done all of these things, she's done everything, but she still cannot get the criticism and the ridicule from school out of her head. And we find out that in fact, it was Maria, because the other girl that she contacted from high school or from school admitted that it wasn't her that spread the rumor. It actually was Maria that spread the rumor about Verity being the quote unquote milkmaid, because she apparently, spreading the rumor that she gave a hand job to a teacher, which never happened. And Maria admits that it never happened. And it basically screwed up Verity. But now Verity's setting her up. She's like, I can control everything. I can change your shirt. I can do this. I can call the cops. I can do anything. I can do because there's infinite variations of how the situation can play out. And her little device from the computer that she built that we see, which looks really awesome. She's got a great rack in her basement. We see that she's able to change in this current reality to any of the variations that could possibly happen, which are infinite. So it's a cool take on the multiverse thing. It's a cool take on the Mandela Effect. It's a cool take on gaslighting and how gaslighting can work with people. It's also kind of a commentary on, what happens when you think you're losing your mind. They're fighting over this little pendant, which the pendant is how Verity remote controls her going through these multiverses and switching them up a little bit, changing the frequency essentially, because things work on vibration. That if you change the frequency, it's like you could change realities by changing the dial on like changing a dial on a radio to get different frequencies of different realities. Occupies the same space, but from a different frequency. That's kind of the concept here. And I thought it was hilarious at the end where she's standing there. Verity's like, haha, I got you. The cops are going to arrest Maria. And then Maria, and this is where it kind of fell off for me, reaches behind, grabs the cop's gun in one foul motion, and shoots Verity, blows her face off. Just bam, done, over. And the cops go after her, and they're like, oh, we're going to arrest you, whatever. But Maria gets the little pendant, and she's able to control things because it only responds to Verity's thumbprint, but she goes and puts Verity's thumbprint on the little pendant and says, I now have control. Give control to me. Give control to me. Control of the pendant now goes over to Maria. Maria uses it to get out of the trouble with the cops. And she's like, yeah, I want you to do this. Bow to me. And because I am the goddess of the universe, and we go to this really weird CGI wide shot of her being the goddess of the universe, arena, an entire stadium of people bowing to her and cheering her in this great sci-fi panorama ending, which was really, really strange and felt like, that's really close to jumping the shark there for me. But I get it. It's a funny ending to a weird episode, and it made me wonder, well, what was all the stuff with the dates and the chocolate and everything else? Maybe it was just an aesthetic thing. Maybe I missed something there. But overall, cool episode. I like the concept. It's a lighter episode, which I do think you need after how kind of heavy and depressing Common People was. I do like this as a bit of a lighter story in the Black Mirror universe before we get set up for, I'm sure, there are going to be more darker stories in the series. But I like the aesthetic of this. I think that's the thing that stands out to me the most, is the aesthetic and the idea are really interesting, and the way they bring things in, again, like the Mandela Effect and gaslighting, and using and just memory, people just forgetting things, and use that as a device here, and the multiverse stuff in a way that, again, multiverses have kind of run their course, I think, with the general public, but this was a cool little, it wasn't a main part of this, but it's a cool little device used in this story. Again, not my most highly recommended Black Mirror episode, probably not going to be one of my favorite ones over time, but it's definitely, if you're into this, it's definitely worth checking out. You probably will enjoy it, but I do want to know what you guys think. If it does blow your socks off, let your voice be heard in the comment box below. What did you think about this? What do you think about all the little Easter eggs that were in there? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, we'll be checking out more nerd revenge, more mean girls taking over the universe, multiverses, and everything else weird coming up in future episodes of Black Mirror right here on the Rantin Review Entertainment. Have a good day.